Hi and welcome to Shadow School. My name is Matt Sandbank. Today we are making gorilla puppets. Now if you stick around to the very end of the video, I'll show you how some jungle scenery can give your gorilla a very cool place to hang out. Let's get started. Here are the materials you need for this shadow puppet. Let's make a gorilla. For this we'll need one cereal box that is broken down. Let's cut along those lines there. We'll save these for the next part of the gorilla, but we'll start with the head and body here. And let's make sure when we're drawing not to draw on these flaps. Sometimes, in fact, I like to cut these flaps off. The reason is that if you happen to draw over the flap, you see this circle here, well, if you draw over the flap, then part of the puppet's going to want to bend away from the shadow puppet screen, and that is no good for your shadow puppet show. So sometimes it's easier just to cut away the bendable flaps just to avoid that altogether. For a gorilla, let's start with an egg shape, a very large egg kind of on a diagonal going kind of this way. The small end up there and the large end down there, and with a fairly, pointed top to that egg. And then what we will do is add some little fur on the crown of that head, and then we're going to go down just kind of a slight bend to about here, and then we cut in, and that's the brow of the gorilla. And then we're going to kind of go down to the snout, kind of down here until you meet up with your egg shape again, and then ride the edge of that line for just a little bit, then kind of come in, out with a lip, and then down with the chin and back to the egg. And that will be your gorilla head. Though this snout is actually looking a little too round, so instead of riding this circle so long, I'm going to kind of shorten that, make this into more of a 90-degree sort of line right there, and I'll have to remember to cut on the inside of that line. Okay, and then what we want to do is make a long triangle that gets gradually skinnier to about right there. Okay, and then what we do is we go from this point and we go down at a diagonal, rise back up in a ridge, and then come down to a rounded point at the edge. We can make actually a little bit more of a rounded point at the end, and then we do kind of a curve, like a hillside almost, upside down here from the edge of this chin. We just go down in a big dip, up, and then another little crest there, like this. And this will look much more like the gorilla once we add some legs and hands. So for that, we're going to grab the other sheet of our cardstock, and let's cut just the bottom off of this gorilla for right now. Just the bottom will do at this point, just so we can size out where our gorilla's hands and feet will go. Okay, let's have the feet and hands end right about here at this fold, so we don't go any lower. And then for the hands, we're going to kind of start out wide and get them in just a little, narrow it down just a little bit, add a little ridge for the fur, where the fur ends and the hands begin, and then we'll do just kind of like the vague outline of some hands. Like that. And then for the legs, we're going to put a dotted line here because we're going to end up adding a big butt. Gorillas have these big, awesome booties to behold. So we'll come back and finish that in just a minute. But for here, let's do a kind of check mark like that. Add a heel right here, and maybe about 3 toes, 1, 2, 3, like that, and then just add some extra meat onto that skeleton, like that. Okay, and then we're gonna add, like I said, a big old butt there. That really will drive home the gorilla-ness of it all. And we may end up cutting that butt down just a little bit, but for now we'll let it stand as it is. Oh, and let's not forget, we need an overlap here so that they can, so that the arms can end up attaching to the body and have a nice little overlap, someplace to help it move freely. So then we cut out the arms, the leg, and the rest of the gorilla body. When I am lucky enough to go to a zoo that has a gorilla, I find myself spending a long time at that enclosure because I just find them some of the most interesting animals to look at because of the proportions of their body, how exaggerated some of their proportions are. I just love it. My kids get bored before I do at the gorilla enclosure. Make sure, though, if you're ever looking at gorillas, you don't stare at them right in the eye because they see that as a sign of aggression. So you want to look away from their eyes. You don't want to make direct eye contact. Okay, got those arms. I'm going to do a kind of large cut here just to be able to manipulate the cardboard a little bit more easily. All right, and now we're ready for the rest of this ape. I like all the great apes. Gorillas are, I think, my favorite to make shadow puppets of, but my favorite ape of all is the orangutan. And I haven't really investigated my reasons why. It's just intuition. I feel a certain kinship. Okay. So, now this I'm realizing, I'm looking at it, and what I actually want is not, I want this tuft of hair to kind of gradually move into this brow. So I'm going to kind of redraw that so it kind of has more of a gradual swoop down that way. I think that'll look a little better. I'm not a trained visual artist, so a lot of my shadow puppet drawing is making mistakes and editing as I go along. Okay, so we're going to want to punch holes right in the middle here and right in the kind of middle top there. I missed that one, you can see, by just a tiny inch, but that's okay. Okay, and then we want to line up this back leg right in the middle of this rounded area, and we want to line up the arms so that the arms reach the ground at the same spot that the foot does. And then we'll just put a dot here and a dot there. Punch those holes out. And then we are ready to join these together with some brass paper fasteners. Okay, for this puppet, you want the arms and legs to be on top and then the body of the gorilla to be on bottom. That will help it move. You put most smoothly. It'll move more smoothly if you can do it that way. Well, let's put the brad through the leg hole and then the back hole in the body. Fold those tabs down. Same thing with the arms. Put the brad through and through this other hole, pinch it down and flip it over, and then fold those down. And we have this character that moves really nicely like that, that kind of cool great ape kind of movement. And let's grab our straws here. Oh, this one's kind of messed up. Let me grab a new straw. Okay, puppet's flat on the table, and so the straws, when we attach them, will stick straight up in the air. What we want is the bend of the straw to go right next to this arm joint, and then let's tape that down. Fold that tape underneath to get a really good attachment there. I'm going to use 2 pieces of tape just to make sure it really stays on there. And then we'll do the same thing with the back leg, only instead of going, oh, actually, yeah, we could make it follow this line, or we could go straight up and down. Either one should work. Okay, I'm gonna fold that under, and then in just a minute, I'm gonna use my tape or my scissors to kind of cut that excess tape off. All right. And that is how you make your gorilla puppet. It's a fun and easy puppet to make. But the way we make it without any scenery really only gives it the bottom half of the screen to work with. If you add some vines and leaves on top of the screen though, you can use that whole top half of the screen to make your gorilla swing around like this. Thank you so much for joining me today at Shadow School. My name is Matt Sandmake. Don't forget to click like and subscribe if you enjoy making puppets like this gorilla with me. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.